Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting me to Suppers. I love the mission of Suppers. I just think it's so amazing and you're doing so much good in the world. So I'm so happy to be here. And we're talking about happiness today. And there's good news and there's bad news about happiness. So let's start with the bad news. The bad news is that it's really, right now, we're having a real problem because 1 in 4 women are on antidepressants. And even with the pandemic, we've had more than we've ever had as a society, but we're unhappier than we've ever been. So that's the bad news. The good news is quite good. And the good news is that there's so much that we can do to improve our happiness. And it's proven, science has really cracked the code on happiness. And no matter where you're starting, there's things that we can do to increase your happiness level. So show of hands, how many people would like to wake up a little happier tomorrow than they were today? I think we all would. Who wouldn't? Exactly. So that's what we're going to do today. And so I'm going to share. Actually, before I share my slides, I'm just going to tell you my story. Why? Because people think she's a physical therapist, she's a health coach. Like, how did I get involved in teaching happiness? And I think it's really important because it's why I'm so passionate about it. First of all, it starts way back in my 20s. And in my 20s, I should have been early 20s, I got married. And that should have been the happiest time of my life. It should have been amazing, but instead it wasn't, because day 2, I found out that the person I married had been seeing someone else our entire engagement. And it was one of those things, today's day and age, and younger people are like, how could that ever possibly have happened? But the truth was that in those days, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet, and we were living in different parts of the country. I was in Boston and he was in Minnesota doing an internship. So you just didn't know. You didn't know what other people were doing. Anyway, long story short, find this out. I still moved to Minnesota, left an amazing job with a pit in my stomach and tried to work things out. It didn't. Moved to Chicago. I forgave him, number 1. And number 2, I moved to Chicago because I just didn't want people feeling sorry for me. I didn't want that pity. Moved to Chicago. I'm working as a physical therapist with people with chronic pain. So I'm seeing an outpatient clinic. I'm seeing back pain, neck pain, TMJ, and my patients are absolutely miserable. And they're like, Margie, you're so happy. What's your secret? And I thought, if they only knew what I just went through, how would they ever be saying that? But then it hit me. And it hit me that I was happy, and that happiness was not based on my external circumstances. It was an inward job. And once I realized that, I decided, they were the most unhappy people. That, what the heck? As a physical therapist, you spend time with patients, you're working on them, so you can talk to them. I said, I'm going to start teaching them what I now call happiness habits, but at the time I didn't know what they were. I'm going to now start teaching them what helped me get through this. And I couldn't believe what I saw. Back pain, neck pain, getting better much quicker than it ever had with just traditional physical therapy. And I started seeing passion coming back and joy coming back and their eyes lighting up. And it was so amazing that was 35 years ago, that every patient I see, every program I do, I've incorporated happiness. Since that time, though, I've gotten a lot more training. I've really delved into positive psychology and was very lucky to have an amazing mentor, Marcy Scheimoff, who's a true happiness expert, work with her on learning how to really teach happiness. And so now I have also a happiness, just a class. So my background's osteoporosis. I do a lot of work with osteoporosis, but I realized how powerful this was. And so now I have a whole happiness program that's really fun. So let's get into, today I'm going to teach you 3 hidden secrets that I think are happiness habits that can really transform your life and make a big difference. So I'm going to share my screen. It's going to be interactive. So you're also going to have fun, because I'm a big believer in fun. And I think fun is really important. So here we go. Just fix this for a second. Okay, so here we go. So first, I believe, let's get the mood set with some fun. And I love cartoons. So I think everyone would agree There's no place like not at home right now. Does everyone agree? Raise your hands a little bit. I think we can all say we had enough home. I loved this. So I want to talk about my definition of happiness, because people think it's not. First of all, what it's not walking around with this big plastered smile on your face, because that would be miserable. It's not that you're not going to feel sadness, you're not going to feel upset when something happens, or that's not what it is. It's being happy for no reason, being an inner state of peace and well-being that is not dependent on your circumstances. That is the key. And so it's interesting. Just Sunday, I was at a conference and I was telling them my definition of this. And I realized, you know what? It's missing something. It's missing the joy. Like, yes, I agree with this, and we all want peace and that well-being, but it's more. And what came to me was that it's colorful. Like, part of happiness is living life in color. And that just resonated with me. So I think it's a combination of both, but just having that joy and having a colorful life. So let's talk about what this happiness continuum. We all know what unhappy is when we're low and dispirited. And we all know what happy for bad reason is. When you're high from unhealthy addictions. Most people think what happiness is being happy for good reason, where life is working for you. You have a good job, you have a good family, things are going your way, and so you're happy. But we're looking for more than that. Because life, as we know, we have our ups and downs. It doesn't always go our way. There's major challenges that all of us face. So what we're really striving for is to be happy for no reason, which is an inner state, which we just talked about, of peace and well-being, regardless of our circumstances. And the good news is that, this is amazing, because science has really shown us, and this has been researched, that there's a happiness set point that we all have. And it's our base level of happiness. And they found that even when people win the lottery, when people become disabled, they still hover back within a year to their base level of happiness, sort of like a thermostat. But we can raise it. So what do you think it's comprised of? You can I'll tell you the first part. 50% is genetics. What do you think is circumstances? You can just unmute and yell it out. Anyone have an idea what percent is based on your circumstances? Anybody? Just shout it out. I can't see the chat. How 30%. Much? 30%. Okay, anyone else?
10%.
10%. Anybody else? Let's take one more.
Percent.
How much?
50.
50. Okay, well, 10%, you are correct. And it's so shocking to people because this is what everybody thinks. If only I had another job, if only I was in a better relationship, I'd be happy. If only I had more money. Everybody thinks it's based on the circumstances, but it's such a small part is based on your circumstances. And the other 40% is habits. So the good news is that's where we can majorly affect our habits because we can learn new habits. But even better than that is the 50% of genetics now. There's a whole field of epigenetics where we can turn on or turn off the expression of our genes. So we almost have 90% where we can affect this happiness set point. So that's the good news. It doesn't matter where you're starting. So I just wanted to quickly go through what the home for happiness. The happiness incorporates, and I have a program on this where each week we spend an entire session on each of these. However, I just think it's important to sort of know it encompasses many different areas, happiness. So when I go through them, just think in your head, which areas do you feel you're good at, or which areas you feel maybe you could use a little more help with? Just think. So starts out, and it's in a house. So it starts out with the foundations, responsibility, taking responsibility for your life, being a victor in life. And then we go to the mind, which we're going to talk about today, the pillar of the mind, the pillar of the heart we're talking about a little bit today too, living with an open heart, the body. And this is critical because, as a physical therapist also and health coach, it goes both ways. If you're happier, you're going to take better care of your body. But if you're feeling miserable and eating horrible food and not exercising, it's going to affect your happy, you want your cells to be happy. So it goes both ways. Then the pillar of the soul. This is actually my favorite, because when you're connected to an energy greater than you are, amazing things happen, and it really elevates your happiness. And then we have the roof, which is life purpose. Are you living with passion and purpose? And then the garden. The garden's who do you surround yourself with? Because it makes a difference if you're surrounded by, by a garden of gardenias and roses, or are you surrounding yourself with weeds? Because that's going to affect your happiness. So that's all the components. So for a minute, just think what area, people sometimes ask me, well, where do I start? What's the best place to start in terms of happiness? And I think it's always best to start where you're the weakest or where you feel you can use a little more effort. Is it your body? So just write into chat for a minute where you think your area is that you could maybe use a little more, that if you were to start somewhere that maybe you give the least attention. So just throw it into chat for a second so we could see what everybody thinks. Just toss it in. It's fun to just see what area. Most people, it's not the same. It's not like everyone's like, oh yes, I need to work on the body, or I need to work on the mind, or I need to work on the heart. Anybody have any? Throw it into chat what you think. Okay, the mind. Let's see. Social connections. Yeah, that's been tough these days. Absolutely. The body. Great. The body. Good. Okay, work on body, a lot of bodies in relationships. Okay, great. So you see how there's so many different things that we can deal with. What I want to talk about now is number one, the first secret. Now, and I want to start with that there's two different energies. There's an energy of contraction and an energy of expansion. And to illustrate this, I want everybody to try it. So here's what I want you to do. Crawl up into a ball, squeeze your hands, squeeze your eyebrows and round out and just really feel tight. And say, ready? On the count of 3, I feel happy. Ready? I feel happy. Okay. Did you feel happy? It's really hard to in that energy. Now what I want you to do is go into expansion. So I want you to raise your hands, bring your shoulders back, just open up and say, I feel miserable. Did you feel miserable? Because there's two energies and they're really so different. And so often we don't really tune into these energies. And I just want to show you all the things that go with them. So when we look at contraction, it goes with unhappiness, fear, pessimism, constriction, resistance, low energy, disease, malaise. Ugh, it's making me feel bad to even read these. Separation, feeling bad. Versus expansion, happiness, love, optimism, flow, acceptance, vitality, ease, well-being, connection, and feeling good. And so we just need to tune into our body. And this has to do with posture too. A lot of us are sitting rounded. They've done studies showing when we're in expansive posture, people interview better. And there's so many things. They've done a study at Harvard that actually goes with that. But what's so fascinating is that blind athletes, when they win a race, they do the victory. They've never seen it, but it's just because it feels so good. So the thing is, what you need to do, so often we just don't tune into our bodies. We just don't. So secret number one is what expands you, makes you happier. And what you want to do, this is a great little exercise you can do, not now, but write 2 lists at some point afterwards when you have a little time. It doesn't take that long. And just go through your life. Go through what you do, your daily activities. Close your eyes. And when you write, you think of each one and then put it. So on the left, you're going to put contraction on the paper. You make 2 headings. On the right, expansion. And then just take a deep breath after each one and see where they go. And then look at it. Where are you spending your time? If indeed you see, my goodness, everything is under contraction, then it's time to make some changes and course correct, because you really want to see what you're doing and try to do activities that cause expansion. you just add those to your life. And it's also like a great internal GPS. I don't know if you're like I used to be, where I would just half the day sometimes I couldn't make a decision. Should I do this? Raise your hand if that's what you do. Should I do this? Should I do that? Or you can write it in the chat too. Me too. You know, you just are hemming and hawing. I just don't know. Well, this is an amazing tool. And that's how I used to be until I really started focusing into my body. How does it feel? Does it make me feel expanded, or does it make me feel contracted? And typically, unless it's something like you're scared to go out of your comfort zone, but for the most part, when you feel contracted, it's a no. Whereas if something makes you feel expanded, it's a yes. And you can even take 2 decisions and just take them out and just sort of stop, tune in. But it's an amazing, amazing tool. And you do want to do things, especially we're sitting so much at our computers, do things to get you out of expansion and just get up and move. So what we're going to do now is do something really, really fun. I love Qigong, and this is like a Qigong dance, actually. It's really fun. It will get us into expansion. Plus, this is the type of thing you could throw into your day and to just spice it up, add a little fun and make you a little happier. And so it's called bounce and shake. So what we're going to do, we're going to all stand up. So this is a participatory web. This is a participatory here. Just take my headset off. Okay. So what we're going to do, and let me just tell you what it is first. And then I have music too. We're going to put the music on and dance a little. But when you shake, bouncing in Qigong is great. It causes something called the cerebral spinal fluid that bathes all your joints. So it lubricates the joints. It activates all the different meridians, and it's just really fun. Okay, so I'm going to just show you what it is first. We're going to bounce, and we're going to have our hands at our sides. Let me make sure you can see me, okay? So we're going to have our hands at our sides. Then we're going to put them at the waist, at our shoulders, and above. And just go to what's comfortable. This should feel great. It shouldn't hurt at all. So let's just do it. Ready? So the music's going to go. So we can have the music. Let's have the music on. Okay, let's go at our sides. Waist. Shoulders. Above your head, you're at a concert. Shoulders. Waist. Oops, what happened to our music here? Maybe I have a music girl helping me. But maybe they muted you more to put it back on. Okay, back to waist. Back down our sides. One more time, waist. Shoulders. Above our heads. Shoulders. Waist. Down. Okay, so how did that feel, everybody? Do you feel, and then you just sit for a second and just feel the energy.
That was fun.
Yeah. So
I can incorporate that into my day.
how easy. You can do it in 2 minutes and put whatever music you want on. That's a music that's called If I Had a Chicken, and it's music that is royalty free, so I can use it as ever I want. But put whatever song. Sometimes I like to do it to, I feel good, just like, but whatever is your favorite music. 2 minutes. It will get you out of it. So right in the show, that was great, very energetic, great. It will get you out of, it's just such a great way to energize you. And it also gets your chi moving. It's get movement. So it's just on so many levels. It's such a positive thing to do. So yeah, that's bounce and shake. Oh, you know where else I do it? You're gonna laugh at this. On the airplane, I go to the back of the plane. I mean, think about that. You're sitting and you just start doing a little shaking. People look at you like you're crazy, but who cares, right? Anyway, so we'll continue. So that's expansion and contraction. So I'm just going to go back to sharing my slides. Okay, so that's expansion, contraction. Okay, we're ready for key number 2. And this is critical because how many of us feel that we're just, we're in a cloud of negativity. So secret number 2 is to rewire your brain for positivity. And how do we do that? And before we get started on that, I just want to tell you a story of Roger Crawford, because he's someone that really learned to rewire his brain for positivity and have positive thoughts as a habit. So if we look at Roger, we see I don't know if you can see what's different about Roger than we are. What's different is in one hand, he was born with just a thumb, and in the other hand, just a thumb and his index finger. That was it. So when Roger was, and when Roger was 5, he also had a big problem with his leg that he had to have it amputated at age 5. So he had a lot of things going on. Then what happened was that when he was in the 8th grade, his mom noticed that his pants, all the pockets were closed, I'm not closed, all the pockets were worn out. They were like holes in the pockets. And so she decided she figured he must be holding his hands in his pockets so nobody would see. So what did she do? Because she sewed all the pockets. And she said, Roger, God gave you these hands for some reason. You are not going to hide them, and you're going to be who you are and be proud of it. And that's the kind of family he came from. So then in the 9th grade, Roger decided to try out, because he had the artificial leg, so he could do things. Roger decided that he was going to try out for the football team, since and he had a lot of confidence. He was brought up with a lot of confidence. He was going to try out for the football team since all his friends are on the football team. And he made it. And his goal, he set out, was he was going to have a touchdown that year. Well, didn't happen. It hasn't happened. It was the last game of the season. And somehow the quarterback threw the ball and it got in Roger's way. Anyway, so there he is with the ball, he's running. And then he gets stopped by somebody from the other team grabbing his ankle and what happened, and tackling him that way. And what happened is they grabbed his ankle, his left foot, which was the artificial limb. And so as Roger describes it, he's pulling, the other person's pulling. And as it turns out, Roger wins. So Roger has the ball, but the other guy has his leg, has the artificial leg. And so what does Roger do? He hops and he ends up getting that touchdown. And so the best part, Roger says, was that wasn't what was so exciting. What was so funny was to see the guy holding his artificial leg. That was better than getting the 6 points for the touchdown. But anyway, so where's Roger today, though, with this amazing attitude and positive thought process? What Roger ended up becoming is a professional tennis player. So you can see his artificial leg and his hands, how he has to hold the racket. And he was on the US professional. He was the first person who wasn't who had some type of disability to be on I guess it's not even called disability. But he was the first person to be on the US tennis team. And he played professional tennis. He's a speaker, a motivational speaker, and has just contributed so much to the world. And this is in the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. They talked about his story in the last chapter. And this is just something that was that he said. The only difference between you and me is that you can see my handicap, but I can't see yours. We all have them. When people ask me how I've been able to overcome my handicap, I tell them I haven't been able to overcome anything. I simply learn the things in life I can't do, things like playing the piano or eating food with chopsticks. More important, I've learned what I can do. And I do that with all my heart and soul. So that is Roger. And the thing about it is that he has learned to rewire his brain, to really focus on what's possible. And it's his habits. So we're going to talk about this for a minute. How many thoughts, well, you already see this here. So the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. And just yell it out because it's easier than me looking at the chat. How many thoughts do you think are the same thought we had yesterday and the day before? Any ideas? Like what percent of our thoughts? 5%, 10%? What do you think? Anybody have ideas?
40%.
48%. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, half, 50%.
50%. Okay. The answer is 95%. Are the same thoughts. We're like a record player, just going on and on with the same thing over and over. Here's the other part of the question. How many of these thoughts are negative? What do you think? Yell it out. Any thoughts?
Yeah.
50% of them.
50%?
80%.
80%? Anyone else?
80%.
Okay, you guys know the answer. Right. 80% are happiness-robbing thoughts are negative. And the thing is this, there's something called the negativity bias. And there's a psychologist, Rick Hansen, who coined the term Velcro versus Teflon. So the Velcro for most people, it's like the negativity sticks to you. You know, we're wired for negativity versus the positive things sort of like Teflon, slide off. And if you think about it, you know, you get 20 compliments and then you get one negative thought. What sticks with you? It's the negative. And the reason that is back in the caveman days, we had to be more aware of a tiger lurking than someone giving us a compliment or somebody saying anything nice. But they found that the happiest people have this the other way around, that they let the positive stick to them. But the good news is there's things that we can do. We can actually change our neural pathways for happiness. So today I'm going to give you 3 easy things that you can put into your life to start rewiring your brain for happiness, regardless of where you're starting. So number 1 is to look for the good. And there's so much good out there, but so often we don't see it. And this is a quote by Dr. Seuss. You'll miss the best things in life if you keep your eyes shut. And I know there's a beautiful park near where I live, and I love riding my bike there. And if I have something on my mind and I'm focusing on that, I miss the beauty completely. Like how many times is there amazing things? Or, you know, someone comes to visit you and they're like, oh, you haven't seen that? You know, we just don't even realize all the amazing things that happen to us. So what I suggest doing is if it's hard for you, I mean, for a lot of people, yeah, they can just start focusing on the good. But if you can't, if you think, oh, there's just not any good in my life, then give out 5 awards, like the Academy Awards. Give out 5 awards a day. One for the kindest person who is, whatever it is, you know, the person who is the kindest to you. Give one out to the cutest dog, the prettiest scenery, whatever it is, just to start getting your mind to focus on what's good. So that's number 1. Number 2 is when something good happens, savor it for 20 seconds at least. That's how you create the new neural pathway. So when someone gives you a compliment, instead of saying, you know, all right, you did a great job on that project, instead of saying, oh, it was nothing, stop, absorb it, and say, you know, thank you. I really worked hard on it, and take it in. Or if you see a sunset, don't just watch it for a second, maybe take a picture. Stop, take it in, feel how good it feels. So it can make a big difference. And then number 3 is to go for a 3-to-1 ratio. So we're going to get the negative thoughts, and that's there's going to be negativity. That's not going to go away. But here's the key. So often we absorb it and we just let it take over us. So there are major ways to really deal with negativity, and I go into that in my program. So there are tools, because you can't just sort of toss it in the closet. You do need to deal with it. However, an easy thing you could do right away is number one, don't absorb it, don't let it take over. Acknowledge it, but then think of 3 positive but true other things, other thoughts. So when you get the negative, do a 3 to 1, and that's going to help counteract the negativity bias. So these are easy things we can all do, and I promise you it will start rewiring your brain for positivity. Okay, and number 3, the third secret is to live with an open heart. And when you walk into a room, you can feel it. It's palpable, who has an open heart and who has a closed heart. And by an open heart, I mean living with kindness, gratitude, forgiveness. That's what an open heart is. So it's interesting because the Heart Math Institute, and they do major research on the heart and health. And what they've discovered, they've actually looked at, they've looked at things through an EKG. This is our heart rate. And they found that there's different patterns. The top pattern with different emotions. So this is called heart rhythm incoherence. And so you see it's all jagged, it's not symmetrical. And this is frustration or anger. And they found with this heart rhythm, and this is that people, 5 minutes of being in this, they found can reduce your immune system up to 6 hours can affect your immunity, versus the bottom one is appreciation or gratitude. And when they found there, it's heart rhythm coherence. We see it's nice and symmetrical, and this can actually improve your immunity for up to 6 hours. So it's so very, very powerful. And so what can we do is the question. And there's a lot we can do. But what I'm going to teach you today is a simple technique. It's called, and this has been proven and tested, it's called the quick coherence technique. And so it's something so easy that we can all do at any moment to switch ourselves into and get us out of the stress, to get us out of the tension, and just get us into that nice heart rhythm, the nice heart rhythm coherence. And so what we're going to do is, so I'll tell you what it is first. There's 3 steps, but then we're all going to do it. Where you focus on your heart, number 1, we're going to put our hands on our heart, and then we're going to breathe into our heart, and then we're going to experience a feeling. So we're going to do it together now. So what I want you to do is close your eyes. And today we're going to put our hands on our heart. But if you're somewhere you can't, you can still do this without putting your hands on your heart. So put your hands on your heart. And by just putting your hands on your heart, just doing that, you're activating oxytocin, which is like the love hormone and the connection hormone. So just that is going to reduce your stress by just doing that. And now what I want you to do is think about breathing in and out from your heart. Just visualize breathing in and out from your heart. Just take a couple breaths in and out from our heart. And now what I want you to do is think of bringing in love, ease, gratitude into your heart. But you can also just think of a person which makes you feel love, someone who just brings love to your heart, or think about an animal, or think about a situation, or a memory. So just something that brings love into your heart. And just let it fill you up while you're breathing in. And now I've been adding another piece to that from the heart math, from the one that they teach. And if this is all you do, it's fine. But while we're all together, I love the energy of the group. With this collective energy, let's just send it out there. Send out this love to the world, to anybody in need, anybody that could use a little love, anyone that needs some healing. So we'll breathe in, we'll feel it inside. And as we exhale, think of sending it out to the world at large. And we'll just take one more breath. And after you send it out, you can open your eyes. And that took just a few minutes. And so I want to know, just from doing it a few minutes, if you feel a little different, if that made you feel any different. And if so, just write it in the chat. If that changed your mood at all in any way, shape, or form. So just write in the chat what you feel. Do you feel a tingling? Do you, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. Calm, calming, great, great. So think about that. The good news about this, awesome, I'm smiling. Oh, I love it. So the good news is, how long did that take? Only a few minutes. It's just like when something stresses you out, they call it the stress response, and we can immediately be stressed, which is contagious. You know, sometimes when, you know, why is people like, it gets addictive almost, you know, why do people like the bad news or the stress? But this is just the opposite. It's the relaxation response or the love response. And so what happens if we do it just once, yes, it feels good. But if you make it a habit, you know, maybe do it 2 or 3 times a day, maybe for like 30 days. What happens is if you continue to do it, your body learns that even just by putting your hand, like I can just put my hands on my heart and it instantly takes me to that relaxation. Or even just thinking about breathing in and out of your heart. It just, you can use it and it snaps you out and snaps you into this nice calm. So it's an amazing tool that's been proven. They've done research on this at the Heart Math Institute, and it's easy. And it's just a great tool that we can use. So it's something that can, you know, take us out of stress and take us into happiness, because when we don't live with an open heart, it really does it makes a big difference in how we feel and in terms of our happiness. So I'm going to share my screen again. So we talked about the 3 secrets. What expands you, makes you happier in terms of doing things that cause expansion, using it as your internal GPS, also working on your posture, and then also doing exercises like the bounce and shakes, number 1. Number 2, rewiring your brain for positivity. And I gave you 3 easy things you can do, which was just focusing on the good. Number 2 was doing 20 seconds at least to really savor. And they've done big time research on savoring. And number 3, the 3-to-1 ratio. So when something negative happens, think of 3 true but positives. And number 3, living with an open heart. And the best way to start that, an easy technique, is doing the heart-centered breathing, where we're just focusing on our heart. And the good news is that, oh, and the other thing I want to tell you though, is I'm very big into one thing at a time. You can just take one baby step. That's fine, because there's nothing worse than overwhelm. Overwhelm is the enemy of happiness. And so the last thing you want to do is get overwhelmed from trying happiness habits. So don't think you have to do anything, you know, pick one thing. And then when you feel you've done that, go to the next. Because when you do things, change takes time. But when you do it slowly and you slowly build on things, that's when you get habits, and that's when it works. So in order to continue your happiness habits, I have a couple things for you. I have this journal that I put together. It's called 7 Days of Happiness Habits. And so basically it just goes through some of the habits even more. And to get that, just go to tinyurl.com/happinessjournal and you'll get that. I also have a program. It's called the Happy Me, Happy Life program. So if you feel you want more of this or feel like you would love this, what I found works is being in a community, is learning the tools. I think the tools are critical, but I also found the community so helpful, to have people around to help support you. And so my classes are live. They weren't always, but I found since the pandemic, I've been having live classes through the program, which is really wonderful. And so it's 8 weeks. Plus we found that afterwards, people were not losing it, but they weren't staying quite in the zone. So once a month, we also meet for something called the Happy Zone. And I also have other things involved with that, with health and wellness. So, but if you're interested in there, you can learn more about it at tinyurl.com/myhappylife. But what I want to do for the month of March is suppers, get everyone suppers 50% off. And so it can be either a monthly program, or it could be, it's a little less expensive if you pay per year, but some people may just want to try it for a month, whatever. But I wanted to give you that. And if you're someone that's truly in financial, you truly want to do something, but you can't afford it, just send me an email or you can, well, I guess I didn't put my email in it. It's just Margie@margiebissinger.com, which is my website. And I'm happy to, I do give out scholarships. So just let me know. And then I also have I have a website and a podcast where it's called Happy Bones, Happy Life. So it's on bone health, but it's also on happiness. So there's lots of interesting topics there. And what I wanted to say is life really is your, we want life, how do you want to live your life? You have to decide that. So we started out with the Wizard of Oz with a joke with Dorothy, but do we want to live in the gray or black and white, which, so many people are just, you ask them, how are they? I'm okay. I'm surviving. Are you just surviving, or do you want to live your life in color? Because we should thrive. Happiness is our birthright, and we're really here to thrive. And I'm here to say you can. There's no reason why you can't. And the good thing is that when you improve your happiness, your health gets better. They've shown that happier people, studies, are 35% less likely to get sick, live 9 years longer on an average. They have 47% less sleep disorders. They have better relationships, make more money, and I can go on and on. There's so many benefits, but it's just a matter of putting your priority on it, saying, you know what, I am. And people think it's selfish to take care of your happiness. Just the opposite, because the best thing you can do for your family is increase your own happiness, because it's contagious. And they found it's at least 3 degrees of separation, if not more. So when you're happy, the next person's happier, and then the person after that. And they've even done some studies up to 5 degrees of separation. So we want to make the world a happier place. And it really starts with you. So it's the least selfish thing you can do. Oh, well, thank you so much, everyone. It's been so much fun. My happiness is always, when you're in these great groups, it just elevates, it really elevates all of us. And so I feel happier speaking with all of you. So thank you for inviting me. And it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you, everybody, for coming.